You know, actually, sometimes when you're an author, you write a book, and then later you hear a phrase that, oh, I wish I could have included that. Well, so the phrase I wish I could have included in the book about being intentional, I heard while I was in Alabama recently. And it was the superintendent saying it was one of the first bits of advice he ever got as a teacher, which was have a plan and work your plan.
Being intentional is knowing why you're doing what you're doing. I think back to myself as a teacher, and you know, I actually used a lot of really good strategies that now I know to recommend to teachers. But I have to say, a lot of it was luck. I stumbled on it, I heard about it, I saw an example. I really didn't think to myself, at this point I'm helping students develop understanding. I think I'm going to use some advanced organizers and some non-linguistic representation.
So one of the things we've talked about under being intentional is understanding that knowledge takes this long and perilous journey from introduction to students to actually making it into their long-term memories. So we've talked about 6 C's of deep knowledge, which are curiosity and coherence and context, and I won't go into all 6, but the idea is as a teacher I need to understand what are those phases of learning and then what strategies are going to work best at each phase of student learning.
One of the touchstones there is to make the most of every minute, and I saw 2 wonderful examples of this recently with a district I'm working with in Texas. We were doing walkthroughs, and the teacher I was with knew the bell schedule, and she said, well, maybe we shouldn't go into this classroom because the bell's going to ring in 5 minutes. And I said, no, let's go in. It's really important that we go in. And the teacher was doing bell-to-bell teaching, bell-to-bell instruction, holding up a kinesthetic representation of what the students were learning. And we thought, wow, we wouldn't have seen that if we hadn't gone in that classroom. And so that teacher recognized the importance of that bell-to-bell learning.
The etymology of touchstones is kind of interesting. It really comes from the Middle Ages, where you had alchemists that would use this granite slab and they would scrape a metal against the granite slab to gauge the purity of metals. So that's where the idea comes from. We thought about touchstones as something that you return to repeatedly to gauge the merit of your efforts. So it's things that really kind of keep you grounded and centered on what's really important.